Hey everyone, it's Maher here with Stefan Pape from HeyYouGuys.com, and it's the month of June, which means it's time to bring you another rundown of the biggest and best films coming to view this month.
One of which is The Nice Guys.
You're a private investigator?
My profession is very complicated, okay?
You beat people up and charge money?
Yeah.
The premise to this movie, of course, is it's sort of buddy cop movie, except the fact they're not really buddies and they're not really cops either. But it's Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling, and it's a sort of detective, sort of chase movie, but it's a film you simply cannot miss. The chemistry between them is incredible, and it sort of subverts expectations as well, because Russell Crowe's the straight guy, the kind of brooding character, and Ryan Gosling's the clumsy one. Ryan Gosling really shows off his kind of comedic chops in this movie. He's the star of this show.
Shane Black, not the most prolific director, but he tends to turn his writing hand as well as his directing hand to the films he does, and sounds like he's got his fingerprints all over this one.
Oh, completely. I mean, what he's managed to do is he's got the really kind of funny sort of screenplay with great kind of witty moments, but it's actually a really strong detective story at the heart of this movie that really keeps you compelled the whole way through.
We're currently doing it the easy way.
And then we go right to the other end of the spectrum with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows.
Gear up, guys.
It's obviously the sort of sequel. I mean, there's been quite a few films along the way, but of the kind of the new...
The Michael Bay produced era of Turtles film.
And we've got Megan Fox back in the movie as well, and Will Arnett as well. And then Stephen Amell is in the film, of course, from Arrow fame.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Who plays
Casey Jones.
Did you guys like a thing?
The Turtles have been through so many iterations from their kind of gritty origins and this Frank Miller-inspired comic of the early 80s. This Turtles is very much based on the 90s cartoon. So on top of the Turtles, Rocksteady and Bebop feature in it. We've got Baxter Stockman, played weirdly by Tyler Perry, and obviously Casey Jones, as you mentioned. And I do believe that, you know, we will be seeing Krang. And so I think they've really just embraced that insanity of the cartoon, you know, wholeheartedly now. And so we're just going to see some real on-screen craziness. So we've got another big budget spectacle alongside Turtles in the form of Warcraft from Duncan Jones.
If we do not unite, our world will perish.
For orcs, there is no other life but wars.
So I think a lot of people might think this is based on World of Warcraft, which is the massively multiplayer online RPG. It's actually more geared towards the original Warcraft, which was a real-time strategy game back in the 90s on the PC, so it's really telling the origins of the whole Warcraft universe. If
you play the game, there's this impartiality where you can play as a human or you can play as an orc, which is obviously the big battle in this movie. What Duncan Jones has done is kind of reflected that, and he's made a very quite fair sort of war movie in some regards, where you actually delve into the lives of both the humans and the orcs. We meet the orcs first. I think Duratan, who's the kind of lead role played by Toby Kebbell, you don't see him physically, but he's got an incredible kind of nuance and subtlety to his performance, and it's got a host of good performances. I mean, Travis Fimmell's in the movie, Paula Patton, we've got some great British talent as well, and Dominic Cooper, Ben Schnetzer is great, and Ben Foster. I mean, it's a real kind of ensemble piece. I think that if you're coming into this blind, you've never played the game, there's a lot to take in. You know, I think it's a huge world. But if you have played the game, and I believe, you know, there's millions of people that have, so it's a big audience, then I'm sure you'll love this film. I mean, Duncan Jones, he's got such a passion for Warcraft, and I think that kind of enthusiasm really comes off in the project.
And finally, for the 3rd of June, another film that features a castle, but in a very different capacity. Yeah. Me Before You.
Well, it's based on the sort of best-selling novel by Jojo Moyes, and the idea is Sam Claflin plays William Traynor, and he's involved in a road accident, and he's paralysed from the neck down. And Emilia Clarke, of course from Game of Thrones, she gets a job as his new kind of care worker. You know, she starts to look after him, but he doesn't really want to have her around. And it's a really interesting film, because when it starts, you almost adopt his perspective, which is that I don't really want to be around her. She grates on me. But then as the film kind of goes along, you actually find yourself really endeared to her, and suddenly this kind of quite uncynical demeanour that she's got is really appealing.
Sorry, I'm being chatty again.
Mary, stay. Tell me something good.
I guess I could call it a guilty pleasure, but then I thought, actually, I don't even know if there's anything to be guilty about. It's just a pleasure. It really is. It's very much tapping into a certain crowd. It's got that almost Nicholas Sparks-esque kind of feel about it. But it's just done really well, and it's sometimes a movie of this nature, which is just undemanding, uncynical, and isn't trying to be anything it's not, can be a real treat.
So next up on the 13th of June, we've got The Conjuring 2, but thanks to View's new preview room, fans can actually book tickets to see the film 3 days early.
Does it feel like the voice is coming from inside you?
More like it's coming from behind me.
Janet, are you all right?
Stop calling me Janet.
What interests me about this series of films is that they are based around real-life paranormal incidents, with Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga starring as the Warrens, a couple who are real-life paranormal investigators, probably most infamously responsible for investigating the Amityville horror.
I agree. I think the whole tale is enriched by this notion of realism. I think obviously with the horror genre we have to suspend our disbelief always, but if you can attach yourself to it in that way, then it can only be a good thing. But James Wan, I mean, if you want any kind of indication as to how good this movie could be, he turned down a lot of money to direct Fast 8 just so he could focus on this sequel. So I think he's got a lot of ambition and a lot of enthusiasm for this project, which I'm sure will shine through much like it did in the first.
So, on the 24th of June, a film I'm really looking forward to. So I think I can rightly call this one a guilty pleasure, actually. The original Independence Day from 20 years ago finally has a sequel.
On this day in 1996, the world escaped the clutches of extinction. But in their sacrifice, we found the technology to build a stronger and safer Earth.
Oh, I can't wait to see this. I mean, it's one of those films where you see it and you think, I don't think this film needs a sequel. And then you find out there's going to be a sequel and you say, I actually really want to see a sequel. It's interesting because as humans, we've kind of advanced. We're more well equipped now to deal with this alien invasion. But what we've also forgotten in those 20 years, the aliens have also become quite more advanced. I think so. The idea, we feel like, oh, we'll be okay now. You know, we've got computers, we'll be fine. But actually, the aliens have, you know, God knows what they could have.
If there's one thing Roland Emmerich knows, it's spectacle, and it's never really the idea that the world is under threat. It's just, you know, how much of that collateral damage can we minimise? We see, as we say, Jeff Goldblum returning, we see Bill Pullman returning.
They've brought in Liam Hemsworth, and Michael Monroe is in the movie, which I'm really excited about because she's got a real kind of screen presence. So it's interesting to see her make her kind of blockbuster debut, you know.
They like to get the landmarks.
The previous film, there was almost something quite tongue-in-cheek about it. I mean, it was a huge blockbuster.
Yes.
It took itself seriously, as it should, but it always felt like it was deliberately playing up to this kind of playful element. And I think if they can match that same sensibility, then it could just be one of the great kind of summer experiences to go and see.
It's the 4th of July, so let's show them some fireworks.
And if you have to something a little sort of gentler and friendlier, we've also got The Secret Life of Pets.
I'm Max, and I'm the luckiest dog in New York because of her.
Come on, Max, I gotta go. See you tonight.
I've always wondered what my pets get up to when I'm out of the house. I think when I was a kid, I had a book that was just all about kind of what cats do when we're all at work. You know?
I usually find the evidence when I get home, to be honest.
That's very true. But this is all set in one Manhattan apartment building.
So we have a dog who leads a very kind of idyllic life with his loving owner, and suddenly a huge, sloppy dog is kind of introduced into the mix and turns his life upside down.
Obviously that's the kind of the crux of the narrative. But it looks like it's one of those films where it's all of the surrounding animals that are going to provide the humour.
Hey fellas, how's it going?
This is coming from Yarrow Cheney and Chris Reno, the directors of Despicable Me, which is always a very good sign, I think. But I mean, if you look at the voice cast they've assembled in terms of comedic talent, I mean, Louis C.K. is on board, Steve Coogan's on board, Kevin Hart, Lake Bell. I mean, that's a lot of really, really funny people. So I mean, it shouldn't just be considered as a family animation movie. I think this looks like an out-and-out comedy, and I can't wait to see it.
You be a good boy, Leonard.
Thanks very much again for your expert insight, Stefan. And if you'd like to pre-book tickets for these or any of the other big releases coming in June, simply head to myview.com.
Enjoy the big screen entertainment.
See you next month.